The departure of Ben. Born 2178, departed 2234, returned 2248. Ben was born in 2178 aboard the settler ship, over 100 years into its 150-year journey from Earth. Life extension protocols had slowed the pace of aging, so only a handful of generations had lived and died during the voyage. But death still visited the halls of the ship, and with it came the quiet weight of accumulated memory. By then, Earth was not a place remembered with longing, but as a story of limitation. It wasn't freedom they left behind. It was containment. Dense cities, scarcity, surveillance, and rigid systems stretched to breaking. Aeon was never promised as paradise, but as a second chance. Ben's parents were engineers, skilled, resilient, and trained aboard the settler ship to work in close proximity to builder units. These autonomous bots had arrived on Aeon in 2191, 10 years ahead of the humans, to construct the colony's initial infrastructure. When the settlers disembarked in 2201, the buildings were ready. But the soul of the place had yet to be found. In 2229, disaster struck. One of the mining caverns collapsed during a scheduled extraction. Ben's parents were among the 15 who never came out. The grief buried him just as deeply. But it also unearthed something, a slow shift from sorrow to awakening. Ben had always been sensitive, but after the loss, his detachment from colony life accelerated. He couldn't understand how, even here, on a fresh world, human nature was still fraying the edges, petty arguments, status struggles, fear. He began to drift. He stopped attending meetings, ignored work assignments. Instead, he pored over the old colony archives and Olia David's logs, one of the planet's earliest and most beloved researchers. Her studies on native ecosystems, plant behavior, and survival in the wild became his new textbooks. Her words taught him not just how to identify edible fungi or track water through tree roots, but how to listen to the land, how to live with it, not against it. But what truly changed him was surfing. While diving through Earth culture archives, Ben found old video footage of surfers cutting across waves like birds in flight, merging with ocean rhythms. The elegance, the surrender to force, it fascinated him. He became obsessed. He studied wave mechanics, learned ancient board-shaping techniques, and scavenged native Aeon wood until he could craft one himself. A single piece of curved beauty, oiled and smoothed by hand, balanced like sculpture. He found his wave in a place he named Serenities, a turquoise bay, hidden far beyond the colony's mapped perimeter. There, soft, perfect waves rolled in at slow intervals, curling into shoulders that held for ages. Earthers would have killed for a break like this. He spent days falling, weeks bleeding and learning, months perfecting his balance. When he returned to the colony, it was only to resupply, grab a tool, or carve another shape. By 2234, the divide was too wide to cross. The departure. He packed a light canvas bag. Inside, a flint kit, a coiled rope, hand-carved utensils, a small blade, a hammock, a rolled-up net, a stone-polished axe head, and nothing else. No shoes. At sunrise barefoot, he left. No speech, no ceremony. Just a quiet farewell to his closest friend Mikey, and a look that said, everything, words couldn't. And he walked, into the trees, into the wild, into the story that would ripple out for centuries. He was the first to go. The first true wanderer of Aeon. the lost years, 2234 to 2248. No one had ever walked where Ben walked. There were satellite maps, of course. Every settler had access to them. Ben refused, at least, openly. What no one realized was that Ben wasn't naive. He had studied the maps, memorized tidal flows, learned the topography like a second language. He just chose not to carry the knowledge like a badge. He followed the Twilight Band, the narrow golden zone that wrapped around Aeon, forever chased by the 7-year-long night that was always behind him, a wall of cold and shadow moving at a crawl. He never saw it. He moved with the storm at his back, always. In that eternal dusk, the world revealed itself. He passed through lands no human had touched. Valleys coated in violet moss, ridgelines screaming with thermal gusts, forests of fall-coloured leaves that never stopped changing, caught forever in an amber revolution. He had memorised Olia David's logs long before he left. Her field research taught him how to live, not just survive. She wrote of how to read the land, how to track warmth and water, how to feel the rhythm of Aeon. Her teachings, fused with Ben's own quiet brilliance, became second nature. He left the tools behind but carried the wisdom forward. At the first great river, too wide to swim, Ben made a canoe. A vision from old Earth, learned from archived footage. A man in the jungle shaping a canoe from a single tree. He copied it with fire and blade, and it worked. But when the land broke completely, and he faced the open tidal spans between ancient continental fragments, he needed more. 2 of those crossings were over 1,000 kilometres wide. No canoe could hold him long enough. So he built rafts. He waited weeks for the right pull, studying wind, current, and the long, patient tide. He launched from the north each time, hoping to land on the far south edge of the other side. If he drifted too far east or west, it was over. Before each launch he felt it, that creeping certainty of death. The same feeling a climber gets halfway up a cliff, hanging by fingertips, about to let go. Then looking down, and realising the rope wasn't tied properly. In that moment, the mind says, "This is it." But something else, something deep and raw, rises up and says, "No, this isn't it." And then you push for the hidden strength deeper within you. Ben experienced that moment 100 times, and somehow, every time, he made the jump. It was this feeling that made it hard to return to the life of the colonies, as none had that look of accomplishment in their eyes that he craved from himself and all around him. He crossed frozen rivers, cracked his ribs on a fall, woke once to find a venomous heat-seeker coiled on his chest, drawn to the warmth of his breath. He didn't move for 10 hours, didn't panic, just waited until the creature slithered back into the cold shadows. He had become a part of the land. He starved. He suffered. He lived. He saw birds gathering nesting fibres, silver grass, shredded bark, glinting beetle wings. He heard wind rushing across open plains so vast they sang. He watched sunlit dust spill over cliffs, painting the world in gold. No voices, no proof, no glory. Just him and the land. It wasn't escape, it wasn't madness, it was life. Unmeasured, unexplained, unafraid. The return, 2248. 14 years after he vanished into the twilight. Ben was spotted walking along the shoreline just west of the original settlement. No one had seen him approach. No broadcast, no warning, just a silhouette in the dusk light. Barefoot, with a long beard and a woven satchel slung over his shoulder. He didn't look wild. He looked calm, at peace. There was something in his eyes, like he had seen things no one else had, and come back whole. The settlement had changed. More structures, more fences, more rules. But the people, they were the same. Older, tired, suspicious. Ben saw it almost immediately. There was no life behind their eyes, only preparation. A second settlement had formed not far down the coast, and it was worse there. Both communities were hardening. The long night was still approaching, slow as always, but fear was already here. The storms that defined the terminal line had grown more violent, jagged walls of dust and shrieking wind carving across the horizon. Fires had to be buried deep or smothered entirely. People built underground rooms, stockpiled, whispered stories to their children of what might come when the darkness finally settled, of things that had once roamed and had since been sleeping. No one knew, but stories had a way of growing teeth. Ben watched, he listened, he tried to reconnect, but he knew he couldn't stay. Mike was still there. Their reunion was quiet, familiar, the kind of silence only old friends can share, but in Mike's eyes there was something else, envy. He had stayed. Ben had gone. It didn't take long before they both knew the next move. They packed light, quietly. At dawn, they left. Together, they walked away from the colony, this time with purpose. This time, the mission was more calculated. And behind them, many stood watching. Some with fear, some with envy. Some wishing they had the courage to go too.
And if you like that, like and subscribe. There is so much more to show you.